Greetings, friends. Just because I'm not an expert in the occult doesn't mean I can't understand some basic things about it enough to know that it's a risky matter. And I just want to lay out some of the basic ideas. And I'm drawing mostly on my knowledge in history, world cultures, things I have encountered firsthand. Enough to know, there's some basic things that people would have accepted anyways in the past, and we have been taught in the 20th century and the 21st century that the people in the past, something was wrong with them, but it's mostly that we are the ones who are brainwashed. And most of what I'm going to say here, I have to give credit to John Razimus for the inspiration and for the elucidation, the articulation of these concepts. I have thought about many of John Razimus's key principles, and I encourage you to check out his channel, link in the description. And after thinking about many of his key principles, I just agree with them on an intuitive level and a rational level. Let's go over some of these points. Firstly, spirits exist. They live in the other dimensions. The word spirituality has become abstracted to mean all sorts of other things for people who don't actually believe in the fundamental original concept of spirits. Spirituality is about spirits. That means your soul and other souls. Some of them human, some of them not human. Not only do spirits exist, they are plentiful. The universe is saturated with them. And it's easy for them to cross over into our dimension if they have an opportunity. God, or the Supreme Being, also exists. Satan exists. Demons exist, and they are directly tied to Satan. They have a hierarchy of rank. Ghosts probably don't exist. Human souls don't get trapped wandering Earth. The soul goes far, far away from Earth upon death. I don't know where it goes, to heaven or hell or somewhere else, but not here. But this paranormal activity, this poltergeist activity, it is happening. People do experience it, but it's demonic. They're demons. All the more reason not to go after them. Do not practice the occult. Perhaps some people should be able to study occult books to have a general understanding of the knowledge therein. But do not engage in any of the rituals or behaviors that these books describe. Above all else, never attempt to communicate with spirits. Never ask a demon its name. If you happen to be bothered by something like this, it's best not even to acknowledge the demon. Don't give it any reason to hang around. Don't give it any fulfillment that it's affecting you. It goes without saying that owning or using a Ouija board is an extremely bad idea. Don't even think about getting one, let alone using it. It's so easy for a demon to establish contact with you, which is what these people are seeking. What they don't understand is they may never get this thing away from them. It may establish a relationship going on and on and on, and a demon will make all sorts of claims. It is a liar. It is a deceiver. And people are somewhat selfish. The people are somewhat moving. I mean, I talked about magic in the past. It's fundamentally about helping the individual, helping you, getting you something. That's, if you just think about it on an intuitive level, that's not a good place to be proceeding from in the world. And Satan is happy that we should have this desire in the first place. So a demon is there, just willing to establish contact, lie to you, tell you all sorts of things. He wants you to serve him. He wants to see your downfall because he is also chained to serve Satan. He's like a lawyer operating within a legal code. As I've mentioned, the world is saturated with all these spirits. It's easy for them to cross over. So apart from occult rituals, which are specifically setting out for this task, there's just the unwitting factor. You may unwittingly lead to circumstances of demonic influence in your life. I'm not trying to overblow the subject. You have to at least know that these things are out there. So I mentioned the two mirrors facing each other. That doesn't bother everyone. But really, it's just how do you feel about it? How do you really feel about it? Some people just don't like it. I know from the comments, and people were saying, well, what about a barber shop? In a barber shop, there's always mirrors facing each other. And I would say, well, yeah, of course, a barber shop needs the mirrors. It's a busy atmosphere. You're not going to notice any. But lots of people would notice that it's a weird feeling in a barber shop, the intensity of those mirrors. I wouldn't want to be there in the evening. Even in the daytime, when it's got customers, there is an intensity there. This is not necessarily making a portal. I'm not trying to overblow this, but you could lead to these potential circumstances. There's so much overlap between the different dimensions. Sometimes when the spirits are on this earth, they may just be slightly removed. It's difficult to describe, but they're just overlapping a little bit. So if you make many smooth surfaces can function as portals. Mirrors are obviously just some of the best, and because they make that reflection, and because they attract attention when we look into them, these are contributing factors. Spirits cross over in many other places in nature, force fields, in water, bodies of water, marshes, certain trees. All the sorts of stuff the pagans knew about, and then the Christians were trying to, clamp down on that. Maybe they got a little harsh, and they burned a lot of people at the stake, but it's not like they were totally... and again, a lot of the Christian, like the Catholic Church of the medieval ages, you can look at that and say they were pretty demonic and possessed, and they were like the Inquisition and all that. So demons have a way of working their way into both sides. However, it's a mistake to look at all this crazy persecution of pagans and then say, well, the religious people were obviously in the wrong. Not exactly. There were these demons. Do not worship idols. Do not have idols in your room. I think it's a bit different. Is the idol a portal? Maybe not this, maybe that's a bit different. With a portal, the spirit is traveling through it, or maybe residing within the mirror, within certain paintings, or within, I don't know, but that's something I'll get into, is the two-dimensional or the three-dimensional. But with an idol, it's a bit different. It's like they are possessing the idol. They are now living in the idol. This is a slippery slope to go down, because what about art? You could say that about so many things. You could say, oh, my lamp is now possessed by a demon. So I know, yeah, this is a bit fuzzy. This is a bit of a gray area. What about the artwork in my room? I have a Buddha there. I have a Ganesha from India, because it was a souvenir from India, and I like the artwork. And I have a Lion of Judah, which is, I guess, the Ethiopian branch of Christianity. They had, or in Rastafarianism, and it's supposed to be representing Jesus, but you could see it as animalistic and pagan as well. And so, some of the more rigid Christians would say, I have to burn all of this stuff. I think that's a bit harsh, but I understand that in certain circumstances, idols do get possessed. What about the Buddha? I like the Buddha. Buddha is a positive symbol, right? People like Buddha. So I can't give a precise answer, but maybe in some situations, even a Buddha can take on a demon or a spirit. Again, it may have, it's specifically the prohibition against worshiping these things. And you can say, oh, well, I get around it by not worshiping it. It's just art. It's just there. And yet, we all know that it's not that simple. Things bleed together all the time. Oh, it's just art. It's just there. You see it all the time. It gets attention. And yet, what about other things that don't get attention? What about those creepy dolls? Ventriloquist dolls, wooden dolls, those are the most creepy. They could be locked away for years. You almost think they're more possessed because they're neglected. What about children's toys, figurines? They like their G.I. Joes and their Barbies. Surely this is a normal part of growing up. And yes, I'm not so crazy to say that kids shouldn't have toys. But on the other hand, there's a reason we give these things up when we become teenagers. And not for the reasons we would think. We would think it's strange for a 20-year-old man to be playing with G.I. Joes. You grow up. But on a more deeper level, there's something about these figurines that, kids want to have power fantasies. Is that a good place to move from? You want to interact your little Barbie tea party or your battle and killing the Nazis or whatever. I mean, that's a demonic place to move from. Maybe we just accept that as part of growing up. It's that power fantasy, but we have the figurines. Aha. So again, it's inviting a spirit. It is. Because this is not a material world. The material world is just a thin veneer of what we see behind a much greater spiritual 11-dimensional world. So everything we do here is like a symbol or a spell even, but not to say that you should do the occult, but it's a vibration of something on deeper levels. I would say you probably shouldn't fill your home with too much art. You don't know what sort of a vibration that could create once you start having so much art. Not that art is quite the same as a figurine, as an idol, but it's on the spectrum. So I think, at least I draw the line between a 2-dimensional and a 3-dimensional object. It's one thing if you have a 3-dimensional figurine. It's another thing if you have that same figurine depicted in 2 dimensions. Now, if it's a satanic figure, if it's a satanic message, then even the 2-dimensional image is going to be a negative force. So let's not be confused there. But in general, you're just giving a demon another reason by creating a 3-dimensional object, something that's more earthy, physical. They like land. They like physical matter. They operate very well here. They like if you worship matter and physical objects. They like that. This is also why I would never purchase a sex doll. It's not that I don't think it could get me aroused. On the contrary, they're becoming more and more lifelike every year. The reason I wouldn't want a sex doll, apart from the fact that I don't need that sensation so desperately, I mean, there are other options, but basically the fundamental problem is I wouldn't want that thing just in my house. I'd feel like it's watching me. You would start to believe that it's alive, and it would become alive. You can't satisfy your urge to feel like you're with a real woman, but avoid the risk of being with a real woman. God will not allow it. Satan is happy to assist. Only our materialist culture would encourage men to purchase sex dolls without considering spirit possession, because such things aren't supposed to be possible. Hasta luego, amigos.